Okay, time to watch She-Hulk. I'm really not expecting much out of this, but honestly, as long as it's just a little funny and maybe has a little bit of action here and there, that's really all I need. Alright, well that was an episode. I really didn't like how Professor Hulk really has no idea what he's doing, and it really seems like Jen just doesn't want to hear anything he has to say. I mean, even though it really wasn't that funny and it really seemed like they stumbled a little bit, it really couldn't get worse than this, right? Wow. Alright, so it seems like pretty much every single man in this is either chauvinistic, misogynistic, one of the otheristics, or is just plain stupid. I'm still trying to figure out where the funny part of this show is. Is that Abomination? They're gonna screw him up, aren't they? At this point, I can't tell which worse, the CGI or the humor. At least they didn't.
Is that Megan Thee Stallion?
Yeah, so I guess this is a Saturday Night Live skit now? Someone needs to tell her that she doesn't know how to act. Well, at least hopefully the post-credit scene gives us something cool.
You almost tasted that. No, eat it up. Go play okay, 3, 2, 1. You know I'm the hottest. You ain't never gotta heat me up.
Oh, you are way more fun than my last lawyer. I will kill for you, Megan Thee Stallion. Dial it back.
Body, yada, yada, yada.
Tony Stark died for this. I get it. It's Donnie Blaze, not Johnny Blaze. I just don't care anymore.
So every guy she goes on a date with is terrible, but she sleeps with the first guy that listens to her?
Yep. Oh boy, nothing I love more than watching an episode about copyright infringement. So exciting.
And don't forget, she's looking for new clothes too.
That is true. At least it's over. Is that Daredevil's helmet? Oh god. Do we even know what Titania's powers are?
Nope.
Do we even know who the main villain is in this?
Nope.
And we're 6 episodes in?
Yep.
Well, at least She-Hulk found someone who actually treats her well. He's gonna betray her, isn't he? Oh, thank God! They finally put Daredevil in an episode! It's about time! It's not that bad. I mean, may take some getting used to, and he's definitely not how he was in his TV show, but I guess we can manage.
Ooh.
Where you'll close at?
One eternity later.
I mean, as far as finales go, that wasn't too bad. Although, isn't it ironic that the writers wrote such a crappy TV show and then created a finale making fun of their own writing? Why could you have taken that whole time just to make an actually good show with good writing? I just don't get it. At least it's over. Please don't make a season 2. This is gonna be a good one. Just a quick disclaimer, this show was not made for my target demographic. If we're looking at what this show could have been, or more specifically what I kind of envisioned it would be when it was first announced, I anticipated a fun legal comedy that could honestly kind of provide a little bit of a bridge while we're kind of slogging through phase 4. Tatiana Maslany was a great choice for She-Hulk, and I was really excited when I heard that we were gonna have Daredevil appear too. Even though we had already seen him in No Way Home, this is gonna be the first time we were gonna see him in full-blown costume. What's not to like about this? Well, this is pretty much when all the good things about this show ends.
That's no good.
What we got instead was a boring, unfunny slogfest of a show, full of heavy-handed social commentary and just straight up uninteresting characters.
Oh, you think this is funny? Are you showing your 11 followers on Instagram?
I really did struggle to find the vision of this show. Is it a comedy?
Nope.
Well, it wasn't funny. Is it a legal drama?
No.
Unless you count a bunch of characters arguing in a courtroom back and forth, then no. Also, side note, the writers themselves even mentioned they didn't know how to write courtroom scenes the right way. I don't know about you, but when the lead character of this whole show is supposed to be an outstanding lawyer, I think that's a huge problem. But I digress.
Am I gonna go to jail?
No, but I would like you to.
Also, is this show supposed to be a real-world political and social commentary? I really don't think so, considering almost every single man in this show is either overbearingly sexist and misogynist,
There's a hot chick over there. I'm gonna go talk to it.
or if they're not that, they're either dumb and or pretty submissive.
I hate talking about myself. Tell me about you.
So I'm an expert at controlling my anger because I do it infinitely more than you.
Are you sure about that?
Now let's hang out on this topic real quick. Now, before you break out the comments just yet, I know that there are tons of men out there who actually act like the men that are portrayed in this show to be. But what this show is doing is it's creating a blanket statement that basically applies what those men do to all men in general, saying that we get handed every single thing that we get. And then in our eyes, all women are just objects that we get to use for our amusement.
That is not correct.
On a personal level, as a man who really does strive to treat others the way I'd want to be treated, it really bothers me that this show decided to take these actual real world problems, and instead of using humor to educate, uplift, and really promote true equality, honestly, it just really turned into negative deconstruction and pretty demasculating of all men just to uplift all the women that are in the show. I may see things a little bit differently, but that really isn't true equality in my eyes. My next big issue with the show really does lie with the characterization of She-Hulk herself. To be honest, out of all of the protagonists that we have in the MCU right now, other than definitely Captain Marvel.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
I feel like Jennifer Walters / She-Hulk may be the most unlikable hero that we have right now. We really don't start off well with her in episode 1. Half of her screen time is basically spent her being dismissive and extremely arrogant and very rude to everyone who's trying to help her, specifically her cousin Bruce. This man has been through hell and back and is trying to set her off better than how he started. And yes, he can be overbearing, but can you really blame the guy after all the stuff he's been through?
I got low. I didn't see an end, so I put a bullet in my mouth and the other guy spit it out.
Meanwhile,
Well, here's the thing, Bruce. I'm great at controlling my anger.
And before you say,
oh, Jonah, you really like Tony Stark and you know how cocky and arrogant he is.
but here's the thing. Characters like Tony Stark, Thor, Doctor Strange, these are all characters who started out very deeply flawed, but they had to learn to be open and receptive to other people's criticism and commentary, and this allowed them to become a more well-rounded being, which made that character a whole lot more likable as we grow with them. On the flip side, you have Jennifer Walters, who throughout the whole show doesn't change her character very much, if at all. She's still the same arrogant and insecure person that we meet at the beginning of the show, leading up to the end. To be honest, it really seems like she demands people to change around her for her, rather than her change and learn how to be a better person and how to see the world from a new perspective. And if people don't treat her the way she specifically wants to be treated, then she immediately becomes dismissive.
God, is this why they hired me? Okay, this sucks. I am totally qualified, but now everyone around here is always gonna think this is the only reason I got the job. It's so unfair.
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
I think one of the best examples of this is in episode 4. Jen goes on several dates that are pretty unsuccessful. These guys could be complete weirdos or they are genuinely creepy. But we're actually not going to talk about the fact that Jen chose to go on the dates with these guys to begin with. But then, boom, she finds someone who is very meek and is very physically gifted, and all of a sudden they're in bed together that night without so much as one full conversation to find out more about each other. All of a sudden he shows an interest in her and to hear more about her, and then boom, she's willing to just sleep with him immediately. No questions asked. Pretty good role model, right? I guess it's okay to hook up with random strangers if they're hot and they listen to your problems. This would be different if Jen actually learned how to overcome her insecurities and realize that she doesn't have to just succumb to the first guy who's nice to her. If anything, she could take the whole series to learn how to be more confident in herself. But nah, no character growth here. Also, they really try so hard to prop her up as some super incredible lawyer. But to be completely honest, as I mentioned before, none of her courtroom scenes are actually compelling. And she even gets nearly defeated in court by Titania. Yes, that Titania.
This is the person who legally outmaneuvered you? Yeah.
Can we also talk about how inconsistent the CGI is? For every close-up where there's actual detail on She-Hulk's face, there's 5 more scenes where she just looks like a PS2 cutscene. No offense to PS2 cutscenes. It genuinely pulls me out of a lot of these episodes. And I fully blame Disney's desire to crank out these shows and movies as quick as they can, and not giving the VFX artists enough time to prepare these things. Another thing that really bugs me is the fourth wall breaks. I know She-Hulk does this in the comics all the time. In fact, this is one of her most defining characteristics. But it just didn't work for me in the context of the show. The fourth wall breaking really kind of felt like the writers were using this as an avenue to tell us what to see and what to feel and what to think, as opposed to providing any sort of comedic value. Telling us things like, oh, I know you want to see Wong, or reminding us that the show is all about her.
I know you can't wait to see Wong. I get it. I just want to make sure that you don't think this is one of those cameo every week type of shows. It's not.
Stop the cap.
Well, except Bruce. And Blonsky. And Wong. Just remember whose show this actually is.
You serious?
Feels really empty to me, and I really feel like there's more creative ways we can use this really cool ability. And before you say, oh, Jonah, you loved it when Deadpool broke the fourth wall in his movies, let me stop you right there. There's only a half truth in this scenario. I really liked the fourth wall breaks in the first Deadpool movie. I thought they were very creative, I thought they were used tastefully, and it was such a shock to see a character do that for one of the first times on screen.
Oh, hello. I know, right?
That's why I enjoyed it. But then when we got to Deadpool 2, it started to feel a little bit hollow and the jokes started to feel a little repetitive, and it kind of lost its allure at that point.
Well, that's just lazy writing.
Because the whole point about fourth wall breaks is that it mostly induces shock value, because that's not something a character normally does. But then when you've seen it on screen 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, then when it's not being used in any other creative fashion, it really just starts to feel old.
I'm totally qualified, but now everyone around here is always going to think this is the only reason I got the job. It's so unfair.
Let's also not forget about the cameos in this series. Is it just me, or do all the cameos in this show really feel like dollar store versions of themselves? Look at Wong. You mean to tell me that the Sorcerer Supreme has no idea how American laws work at all?
We do things by the book.
The Book of Ashanti.
No.
Plus he forgets to appear at a very important trial that he is the key witness in, all because he lost track of time. It's just kind of a shock. And when you're not used to seeing a character portrayed in that light, it definitely just feels really off. Granted, his scenes with Madison, and I think it was like the 4th episode, it was the 4th episode. Those are some of the more lighthearted parts that actually almost made me laugh. And then you have Abomination, who in my opinion is one of the most drastically changed characters from when last we saw him. You're telling me that this is the same guy who destroyed half of Harlem, killing people left and right and creating mass hysteria? And now in the She-Hulk show, he's trying to make it sound like he thought he was the hero, thought he was Captain America? That's so confusing because we've had no exposure to this character since he appeared in The Incredible Hulk. And now all of a sudden to flip it around and oh, he's a pacifist now. I get that it's supposed to be funny, and you could have totally done this with a new character, but just bringing back a character like this for nostalgia purposes to get people to go, oh hey, I know that guy. This doesn't line up with his character at all. And to have him just basically be like, oh yeah, I wrote a haiku and a poem to Bruce Banner, and so we're cool now. And Bruce being so dismissive and being like, oh yeah, no, that guy, we're good now. That seems like a very lazy way to just close the book quickly so that there's no more questions in the future. Now, for people who may not be as invested in the MCU, or maybe don't remember him as much from The Incredible Hulk, to them this may be like, oh, it's not a big deal, don't really care. But I will say, as a longtime MCU fan, it very much is confusing to just see this quick character change without so much as a explanation as to why they are who they are now. And as for Daredevil, here we go.
It's about to go down.
Isn't it funny how heavily the cameos were marketed in the early commercials that we got before the show even came out? Why did I say commercials? Is this the mid-2000s? I actually meant the actual trailer.
You stupid.
That's when all of the fans of the Daredevil TV show, including myself, which by the way, I believe the Daredevil TV show might be my favorite Marvel project that we've seen on screen ever.
That's why he's the MVP! That's why he's the GOAT! The GOAT!
Seeing him in the She-Hulk trailer, even if it was for only 2 seconds, got all of us to go, all right, I can't wait to see what he does in this. I don't even care if he's in there for a couple seconds. I can't wait to see Daredevil. And they got us. Hook, line, and sinker. They knew exactly what they were doing. And to include him all the way down in episode 8 really revealed to me that they just wanted him in there to pull in the fans that they know they wouldn't have been able to get before, because people like me who wouldn't have been interested in She-Hulk all of a sudden is interested because one of my favorite characters is going to be in it. But then we have scenes where Jen again breaks the fourth wall and tells us, oh, I know you're excited to see all these cameos, but remember whose show it's actually about. To be honest, what I gathered from that is the show telling me that the show itself is not retaining its original audience, and so it needs to be able to pull from other different TV shows and movies that we know and love in order to get us involved.
Don't ask questions, just consume product and then get excited for next product.
Now, when it comes to the actual characterization of Daredevil in this show, I can look past the more cheesy, lighthearted nature that he possesses when he's in the show.
My ass remains unwhooped.
To be honest, it was just great to see him in live action again. Did some of his quips not really sit well with me because it really didn't feel like his character? Yeah. Did some of his jumps and acrobatic moves feel a lot more weightless and CGI heavy than how we remember from the TV show? Yeah. Honestly, at this point, I just see it as something I'm gonna have to get used to. Because with his 18 episode show coming out in the next, I think it's year and a half or so, we're probably going to see a Daredevil that we are not used to. And it sounds like they're at least trying to respect his character just a little bit. Now, when it comes to his whole decision to hook up with Jen, that really didn't sit well with me. And I know a lot of people are gonna say, oh, Jonah, in the comics, Daredevil was a really big hoe. He was, you know, sleeping around left and right. And I would say to that, just because he did it in the comics doesn't always mean you can translate that directly into live action. Because you gotta think, you can have a lot more creative freedoms with characters who haven't been explored before. But we have 3 whole seasons of Daredevil where we've got to learn to love the character, to grow with him, to experience his rise and his fall. And this investment that we have in this character can't just be immediately pivoted into, oh, this is the same guy, he's just funky now. Because I was thinking as he was hooking up with Jen, I was like, where's Karen Page? I know they weren't necessarily dating at the end of season 3, but they were still very close. And has he just completely moved on from that? And the whole walk of shame the next morning, again, doesn't necessarily sit well with me. I mean, he's literally out in broad daylight in his costume. It just looked really off. But that's just because I don't recognize this character from the character I fell in love with back in, what was it, 2016? Daredevil is a very unique character, and this sets him apart from his other MCU buddies. He already has a devoted audience who has a strong relationship with him from his TV show. Also, the funniest part of episode 8 was when Matt Murdock came in and just absolutely demolished Jen when it came to the legal courtroom stuff. When all this could have been prevented if Jen was actually a good lawyer and talked to her client beforehand to find out any more information that she might need to know going into the hearing. And then it's even funnier when she gets awarded soon after with a Female Lawyer of the Year award, when we've probably only seen her do one decent lawyering thing throughout the whole show, and she's supposed to be a fantastic lawyer. That just makes no sense.
It's definitely a no for me, dog.
Show me where she's been a more competent lawyer in this show. But nah, seems like the writers would rather tell you that she's a great lawyer, rather than actually take the time to write a good story and show you how she's a great lawyer. This show, man. Also, real quick, Matt Murdock mentions that the Sokovia Accords have been repealed. It's not like we had a whole movie dedicated to this whole premise that actually split the Avengers apart and ruined a long-standing relationship and friendship between 2 best friends. Seems odd that we would just breeze right by this, right? I don't know about you, but this again seems just very incredibly lazy to me. One final thing I want to reflect on is the social media response to this show. It really seems like the She-Hulk creators really know how to whip the internet up in a frenzy. It's basically free marketing, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, but I've been very wary about this show's presence on the internet the last couple of weeks. It really feels like in this day and age, you're forced to pick a side. Either you absolutely love She-Hulk and it is absolute peak cinema, or you get pushed over to the side of people who absolutely hate it, think it's garbage, and think no one should ever watch it. And in my case, I genuinely dislike this show. But when I look at people online who express this same opinion, they get absolutely ripped apart, being called sexist, racist, misogynist, all because they just genuinely did not enjoy this show. And to me, when these words get thrown around with no actual validation of knowing that person's character, again, it falls into the buzzwords where you can just say whatever you want to say to completely invalidate and neutralize someone's argument. This doesn't excuse the other side though. If you genuinely don't enjoy a movie or a show, then express why you don't agree with it in a very respectful way. Don't come after people for liking it, because everyone is going to enjoy what they want to enjoy. It's subjective. But when you look at the actors recently who have taken to Twitter to support this show, specifically the actress who plays Titania, a lot of her comments are very bitey and very arrogant, where it's like, we spent a lot of time working on it, we believe that it's important. And so by telling you that you need to like something just because it's diverse or funny, at least by your standards, then that immediately disconnects me from wanting to enjoy it. Because if you have to tell someone to like something, chances are you already have an idea that they're not gonna like it. But I'm gonna go ahead and step down from my soapbox. This whole video has been me sharing my personal convictions about this show, but now I wanna turn it over to you guys. Let me know, did you like or dislike She-Hulk? And if you did or didn't, then tell me why. I'm super curious to hear what you guys think, especially with it being so polarizing. Sound off in the comments below, but please remember to be respectful. If you did enjoy this video, go ahead and drop a like. And if you're new to my channel, go ahead and subscribe to see more content just like this. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.